person who loves cats. I never meant to get so fat, but here I am despite what's done. So let's get into this and have some fun. Oh, oh, oh.
Meow meow. Just a little update. Been a bit quiet recently because obviously we've been dealing with saying goodbye to Sooty, which I know a lot of you may have seen the video yesterday that I put up for her, and may have also seen if you're on my Facebook, may have seen the Facebook post and Instagram and stuff. It's been really tough, really hard. I'm not normally a massive crier, but I think I lost a lot of water weight yesterday. It's hard, isn't it? You know, she's been part of my life for nearly 25 years. And to make that decision, the decision was made on Friday because Sooty gets so distressed over going to the vets. And I mean, super distressed to the point where she will shake like this. You know, not just tremble, but she will shake and she'll lose control of, you know, her toilet stuff. And I couldn't do it to her. I couldn't let that be her final moments. So the vet agreed to come to the house, and unfortunately that couldn't be arranged until Tuesday, yesterday. Yeah, so it was tough because all over the weekend and obviously Monday and particularly yesterday, we knew that everything we did was going to be for the last time. So it was a really tough few days, and I did actually, I said to Rich, I think it was on Monday, or it might have been over the weekend, I can't remember. But I said, I've realised that I think I'm probably an emotional eater. I think it was Friday, actually, because the weird thing is, and this, it sounds so weird to say this, what is that white thing? Oh, it's my coat. That's what's hanging up. The weird thing is, as soon as I made that decision, so two completely unrelated things, okay, so this is how my brain works. Rich and I had a long conversation over a course of a few hours about, is it the right thing to do? Do we need to make this decision now? She's starting to struggle. She was struggling, like going for a poo, and she was just getting exhausted. Her breathing was quite laboured. She's had difficulty walking for quite a while, but she's managed. You know, she's managed. She'd been on Metacam to help with the pain, and she purred a lot and was really engaged with us. And while that was happening, you know, I'm going to keep her going as long as we can. But we reached a point Thursday evening where she tried to go for a poo. She was struggling because she was constipated. She just got so exhausted after about a minute that she just kind of flopped down and didn't have the energy to even come back into the living room. And that was heartbreaking. And so we had this conversation Friday, and I said, look, you know, we've both got to be in agreement about this, but I'm not sure it's fair for us to let her go on. Anyway, we had this conversation. We made the decision. We phoned the vets. We spoke to them. They were lovely. Vets for Pets in Bishopston. Absolutely, really sensitive, really caring, really, you know, I wouldn't say it was a lovely experience, but it made what was an awful time much more manageable. So the next thing my brain goes to is, oh, it's 6 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock, it's time to eat, let's get takeaway. And then I thought, why, hang on, where did takeaway come from? Because it's been a tough day. It's been a tough day, Lizzie. It's been a hard day. You know, and you're losing your little girl, and, you know, so let's get takeaway. And I thought, no, no. In my logical mind, I cannot balance that reason. I can't. You know, I'm heartbroken because the Sooty had a sister called Sweep. And Sooty and Sweet were both rescue cats. I'll tell you a little bit about them in a minute. They were both rescue cats. They were sisters. our sisters. And, you know, this little girl who I've loved and cherished and had such a special connection with for so many years is in her final days. So let's go and get a takeaway. There is no logic there, is there? And I turned around to Richard and I said, I think I've just realised something after, 55 years of being a foodie. I think I might be an emotional eater. And he just kind of looked at me and went, oh, do you think? So I think maybe everyone else realised this before I did. But anyway, I didn't go and get a takeaway. And I haven't had a takeaway. So I have stayed on track. I haven't allowed myself to eat, to deal with the emotions. I haven't allowed myself to do that. And that's good. And that's fine. I'm not complaining about that. That's good and fine. But it is weird, isn't it? The places that, the way that our brains kind of work things out. But let me just tell you, I want to make this a short-ish video. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Sooty and Sweep. Sooty and Sweep were both abandoned at about 6 months old, roughly. No one really knows. In a carrier bag, in a rubbish bin at a supermarket just outside Bristol. They were fished out of the bin by a security guard who thought it was rats because he could hear this rustling. And so he kind of investigated and found these two little cats. Sooty was all black. No surprise there. Sweep was black and white. And Sweep was the smaller of the two. And she had a hairband, as in one of the elastic hairbands, around her tummy. No idea why. I can only assume that somebody put it there, but I have no idea why they would do that. And it was so tight and had been there for long enough for it to cause a wound, and for that wound to kind of start closing over the hairband, and an infection had got in. So she was taken to the vets, and the vet, apparently, this is just what I'm told, because obviously I wasn't there, the vet thought that she may not pull through the operation because she was quite frail. Frail is the wrong word, fragile. But anyway, she did pull through the operation. Sooty was okay. She was just very, very traumatized. Apparently, she was just like covered in wee and poo from where she'd been so frightened. And I think this is where her fear of the cat basket and journeys in the car had come from, and maybe abandonment, even though I think after 25 years, she'd know I wasn't going to abandon her. Both the cats went to a cat rescue, and they then went out to a foster home for a little while, just for them to, to fully recuperate and find their feet, find their paws. And then when I was looking, I was looking for a cat, and I approached the rescue and had a chat with them, and they, came and interviewed me and stuff. And they said, would you consider taking two? Because we have two that really need homes. Anyway, they said, we have these two. Would you consider taking them? I'm like, absolutely. I'll take 8 if you've got 8. I am the crazy cat lady. So that was it. And at the time they were named Blackberry and Bramble. But I didn't like those names as much, so I called them Sooty and Sweep. Had they been boys, they were going to be called Ant and Deck, which I think is brilliant for 2 cats. But anyway, Sooty and Sweep, they were proper little characters. Took them a while to get settled in. Sweep was always very scared of people. She was okay with me, but I guess I'm not a people. But anyone she didn't know, even my dad, who used to come into the flat, she would run away under the sofa. And it took her, I want to say, a few years before she really got her confidence. And then she just became the most lovable little cat ever. She had a habit of rolling on her back, showing people her tummy, and kind of daring them to go and stroke it. And she was very playful. She used to love to play. And she used to do this. And she just had her tongue sticking out all the time. And sometimes she'd wash herself. She'd be like, and then she'd kind of forget, and she'd go. and just sit there with her tongue out. It's like, Sweep. Yeah. When Rich and I got together, and he obviously moved in here and we got married and stuff, she became his little girl. Absolutely his. She was his shadow. She adored Rich. And I think I loved Sweep, don't get me wrong. We used to have our cuddle times. I used to sing songs to her, don't laugh. I used to make up songs on the spot and sing them to her. And I'm sure she just tolerated it. But at the time, I thought she really loved it. I hope she did. Now, City was very different to Sweep. She did play, but she was kind of not less playful, but just kind of more calm, I think I want to say. Even as a young cat, she was a lot calmer. And she just used to love being cuddled. She loved being cuddled. She always had to be touching you. So if you sat next to her on the sofa, she would want to put her paw on you. And she would just sit like that for ages. And I felt that I had a different connection with Sooty than I did with Sweep. Although, don't get me wrong, I loved them both equally and dearly. Sooty was always a bigger cat. I mean, she was bigger built. She had big paws, but she was an absolute foodie. And she just assumed that whatever food you were eating, it was good for her too. And in her lifetime, she has eaten broccoli, cauliflower, carrots. She loved mashed potato. She loved toast. She would just eat the buttery bits, not the crust. She loved Marmite, and Sweep loved that too. Just a tiny little dot on the finger, and they would lick it forever. And she also liked pizza and cheese. And there was a time about 5 years ago where my mum and dad were still around, and Sooty was much more agile than she was in her last months. And it was Christmas time, and we had mum and dad and Rich's mum for Christmas dinner. I think it was on a Christmas Eve, but we were having our Christmas dinner with them that day. And I cooked, because everybody liked different meats, I cooked roast beef, roast turkey and gammon. And I laid it all out on the table, sliced a few slices of roast beef, gammon, etc. Put them on a plate so people could, just serve themselves. I turned back to the kitchen to go and get the veg, to put that on the table. And I heard my mum go, Sooty, Sooty. And I looked round, and Sooty was up on that table, piece of roast beef in her mouth, this massive piece of roast beef hanging from her mouth. And she was off that table in the bedroom and hiding, eating that roast beef before anybody could go and take it off her. I mean, we laughed. We just thought, I couldn't tell her off. How could I tell her off? I would have done exactly the same. If I was a cat, I would have been Sooty. I absolutely would have been Sooty. So, it wasn't too much of a problem. The vets did used to say to me, she does need to drop a kilo or so. And it's like, yeah, okay, I know. And I tried to get her to play more and to run around a bit, and she did. And she used to love going out in the garden. She would always want to come out with us in the garden. She was a very sociable cat. She was my little girl. And, she was happy, and I know that the love that I felt for her was reciprocated, as it was with Sweep as well. So that's the story of Sooty and Sweep. We also have another Sooty, who we call Sooty Boy. So that was Sooty Girl. We have Sooty Boy. He was rescued, I want to say about 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. He didn't come from Bristol. And I lied to my parents. Let's be straight about this. Because my parents, having lost their cat a few years before, who was 21 when he passed, my parents were both quite elderly at that time. And they said, that's it, no more cats. Because, my mum would say, they're too much of a bind. If we want to go away. I'm like, Mum, where do you go? You never go away. How is it too much of a bind? Get another cat. And they weren't having it. So I knew that I needed a home for this little cat that needed rescuing. So I said, Mum, would you just kind of like have him just for a month and just look after him for a month? And then I'll be able to, somebody else will have him after that. they wouldn't. I had nothing else lined up. But she said, oh, okay, all right, just for a month. So I went and got this little boy, and he was terrified of people, and I mean terrified, and particularly men. He'd been in a really bad situation, and if he used to hear a man's voice, he would try and melt into the wall. It was the most heartbreaking thing to see. So we had a fair old journey to get him to Mum's house, and all the way there I was talking to him, and I was saying to him, like, you know, you're going to be going to live with my mum and dad, and they're lovely, you'll love them. Oh, and my dad, you can wrap him around your little finger or your little paw, your little toe bean, you know, just give him a cute look, and he'll melt. And so I was chatting to him all the way there, and I got there. It was the middle of the night, actually, when I got there. And Mum had got up to go to the loo, and she called out to me from the top of the stairs, and she said, is that you, my love? And I said, yeah, it's me, Mum. And she said, have you got Sooty with you? And I said, yeah. And I'm just going to open his basket and just let him come out when he's ready of his own accord. And he shot out that basket, went straight up the stairs, straight to my mum, started rubbing round her legs and started purring. And my mum was kind of like, oh, hello, said, oh, aren't you lovely? Oh, I do need to go to the loo. Let me just go in the bathroom. And she went in the bathroom, shut the door, and he was pawing at the door and meowing because he wanted to go in there with her. And, you know, this cat who was terrified of everyone, it just went straight to my mum. Took him a couple of weeks to do the same with my dad. My dad was a very gentle man, and he loved cats. He loved all animals. And he was a very loving and very gentle person. But he was a man. And, you know, Sooty's experience of men hadn't been great. So it did take him a couple of weeks, but he adored my dad. Absolutely adored him. So Dad passed in 2021. My mum went into a home in 2022, in the kind of July, August time. And before my dad passed, he made me promise about 110,000 times that I would make sure that Sooty was okay. If anything happened to Mum, don't worry, Dad, I will take Sooty. You know, he's not going anywhere else. He'll come and live with us. So Mum went into a home, and she was there for just over 6 months before she passed. So it was all very quick, the process of her going into the home. It wasn't planned out over a period of months. It kind of just went boom and happened. And so suddenly one day it was like, Rich, we need to go and get Sooty. He's going to come and live with us. So that's how we've got Sooty Boy. And again, he is Rich's shadow. Rich is sat doing stuff on his computer, and he sits right there. So I look over and I see Rich trying to watch something, and he's going, and the cat is going, and then he chases the mouse on the computer. He's hilarious. And again, he is a very sociable cat. For somebody who was so scared of people, he's certainly found his balls now. He's so sociable. The minute he thinks that somebody is going out into the garden, he's there with them. He wants to go with them. He doesn't want to be out there on his own. If he's out there on his own, if you dare to come in from the garden because, you know, it's -12 and you're freezing, well, it never gets to -12, but you know what I mean, then he'll shout at you from the porch, like, meow, 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 really loudly, really loudly. I mean, I've had messages from the neighbours before now saying, is Sooty all right? It's like, yeah, he's fine. He just wants someone to go in the garden with him. He is an absolute character, and he's got a nightly routine. He comes into the bedroom. Do not go to bed without him, because if you do, he will come herring in the bedroom like the hounds of hell are chasing him, ears back, jump up on the bed, and he'll sit there and look at you as if to say, what the hell do you think you're doing, leaving me in the living room? And he always lies on me first, and then he'll move over to Rich. And he always manages to lie on me before I've got the bedclothes covered me. It's a whole process. But he's beautiful and gorgeous, and I adore him. And he definitely knew that something was up with Sooty Girl. He stayed out of the way yesterday and just spent most of the day curled up asleep. So I think he knew that, you know, something was going on. And when Sweet passed away, she actually died in August 2023, but she passed in her sleep. So we had the unfortunate morning when Rich came in and just found that she'd gone, which was tough. It was really, really hard. But I've got to say it was tougher having to make that decision for Sooty. But I know we did make the right decision. I know we did. People who don't believe in it, that's fine. You know, I'm not here to try and convince people that I'm right. And it's just my personal beliefs. And I talk to my mum and dad all the time. All the time. And I spoke to my dad on Friday. And I said, Dad, am I doing the right thing? Because I could really sense him around. And I said, are we doing the right thing? And when I say I heard him say, I heard it in here. I heard him say, it's time to let go, my love. And then I rang a friend of mine who you'll probably meet at some point. And she's a medium. She's a very good friend of mine. And she's helped me a lot over the years. Well, we help each other, I think. And so I messaged her and I said, can you speak to Dad for me? Because I don't know whether I trust what I'm hearing. And she's like, okay, what do you want me to ask him? And I said, can you ask him what I should do about Sooty? And she came back immediately and said, he says it's time. And I thought, well, okay, I know the skeptics amongst you are going to go, well, yeah, you know, she's 25, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's just what felt right to me. And I knew that it was Dad saying, you know, yes, it's the right time. And I know that he was there and that he came and got her. And, you know, he would have taken her over. I have to tell you that the morning that we discovered that Sweep had passed away. It was about between 8 and 8:30 in the morning when we got up and found that she'd passed over. So Rich and I both stood in the hallway and cried. And it was August time. We made a cup of coffee and we went and sat in the garden. And we just like sat there, you know, comforting each other and having this cup of coffee. And we hadn't phoned anyone at that point. And I was saying to Rich, I don't know what do we do now? I'm not quite sure what the procedure is, you know, what we have to do. As we were discussing this, my phone rang and it was Liz. Her name was also Liz, the medium friend. And so I picked up the phone and said, hi, Liz. And she said, are you and Rich okay? And I said, yeah, we're fine. And I was about to say what had happened. She said, it's just that Dad's been around since about 8 o'clock this morning. And he wants you to know that he's got her. So she said, I'm assuming that you've lost one of the cats. And I said, we have, yeah, Sweepy's gone. And this is, you know, this is just my own experience of things. We all have different experiences. We all have different beliefs. Even people who believe in life beyond death have different beliefs about it. And I don't think we'll ever know who's right and wrong. And I don't think it matters. You know, I don't think we'll ever know until it actually happens. But, you know, I can tell you other stories. Maybe we'll do some story time videos. Because I've had experiences with my dad. Before he passed, I made him, we knew he was going to pass. We knew he was on palliative care. In the last sort of like 4 or 5 days of his life, my dad was my best mate. I have to say that. We were really close and he was my best mate. And I said, Dad, you have to promise me that as soon as you can, you will come back and visit me. And he said, of course I will, my love. If I can, of course I will. And I said, and you have to make it really obvious because you know that I'm a bit thick. So no flicking light switches or knocking something off the table. It's got to be something really obvious. And I'm not going to tell you that story today because I want this video to be about the kitty cats. And also because I don't want it to be too long. But I will tell you that story one day. And I'll also tell you how Dad became Papa Palmer, the patron saint of parking, which is a video all of its own. Thank you again for all of those messages, for all the love, for all your thoughts and your prayers and everything else. And I'll see you in the next video. Meow meow.